Hello guys, Sam here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made the map and terrain as well as the atmosphere for my upcoming, currently working on horror game called Nostalgia, and to kind of show you the processes of how I kind of do things in Unity. First, to start off with, is the materials that I made for the following terrain model that you see on screen. I made the terrain in Blender as well as the trees. Basically, this is what you see is what I made on Blender. I'll have a separate video that goes over it. But in this little bit, I'm just working on the grass textures with just some of the textures that I have that are custom that I made a while back. Next up, we have the first-person controller, which I had to get a separate first-person controller just because the one from standard assets just wasn't working, wasn't being compatible with a lot of things, so this is just one that I got off the internet. Next up, got the skybox put into place, just seeing how it would look. Got rid of the dimensional light that is in the scene. It was just a matter of getting the trees textures to get put into place, the materials put into place, and making sure that stuff was working properly. I then added in the flashlight, which at first I was just messing around with some of the stuff from standard assets and figured I could probably incorporate this in somehow into the game. At first glance, it was just a bit too bright, so I decided to go back in and tone it down a bit, as well as widen its range. Alright, so here's going to be a little small tutorial on how I did the fog effect for the game. All I did was I took a isosphere, flipped its faces so that way it's the inside faces that show up. Then all I did was duplicate that sphere a few more times until it started to look like this. You can see all the different layers of each of the spheres. I then went ahead and exported it out as an FBX file. Went back into Unity, imported it in. As you can see, with the flipped faces, you can see the inside faces of the spheres. Now it's time for the material. All I did was a transparent material. I suggest, if you want it to look not super cloudy and to have more of a more vibrant appeal, I suggest having it so that way it has an emission on it. You'll see as I'm playing around with this, you could kind of see the fog coming along, but as you'll see, I didn't add an emission over the fog, so everything just appeared to have this film of gray. Plus, it wasn't enough layers because you could see all the way across the map, so I duplicated it 3 more times. Went back in to fix the fog to make it have an emission, so that way when it gets applied to the fog sphere, it has more of a contrasting glow against everything else. So we're getting close to what the final product is here. We just need to go ahead and add in some post-processing, which is my favorite part. Had to size up the map a bit. I was feeling it was a bit too small. Had to flip it upside up because it went down as I resized it. As you can see a lot more of the details as it's been sort of scaled up. Trees feel more tree-like. Things feel grander. The rain is a little bit triangular, but I feel it's not that big of a deal. If it becomes an issue, I'll probably figure out how to add some ground covering and such. Now it's time we get into the post-processing. I did some really neat trick with chromatic aberration to kind of blur the edges of the screen, because what you can do is with the spectral lit or LUT, I don't know what that is, I can't see it on my screen. That if you put a sprite over it, it gives it that sort of, it doesn't have that aberration. You can see me now just messing around with blurring, depths of field, seeing what works and what doesn't work. I was trying to figure out a way that you can kind of make it look like you're peering around a corner or such. But overall it was starting to look a little too blurry, and one thing that I was noticing was that the water that I had in place, which is literally just a plane over the terrain, it wasn't really telling the fact of it being water. But here you see me just, before handling all the other little quirks and stuff, is me just going through and seeing what exactly works. Now we get to the water part, which is kind of the difficult part, I would say. It was difficult because I was just trying to make it so that way it didn't feel like you were inside of a tsunami anytime you entered a map, as you see here. The waves would just go so high, and it was just, I was trying to really figure out how to tone it down. I changed up a few values, made some values smaller to see if it would do anything, and it kind of helped a little bit. It's still a little wavy. I may have to just fix that later on, and also you can't really see much of the detail in the water. It feels more like a smoke screen that's put over everything. But yeah, that's about it. I really just kind of went with my gut on this and thought of, hey, what would be a nice little simple thing to do for just doing this game?
Yeah, boy!